what was the inspiration for the short film, and kind of go through that thought process for me.
One of my husband's best friends bought this like ridiculously gorgeous apartment. It's like embarrassingly beautiful. It's like it looks like it's something from a magazine. So I asked him, could we film there? Like the carpets are cream. It's so expensive. And he said yes. So the whole premise of it was written around the apartment. And then you kind of bring in things. You're like, oh, who are the two characters and what's their lives and what's the crux of it? So the inspiration was a little bit of we have access to this beautiful apartment. I would say he regretted it the second we stepped in because we got like partial funding from IADT, the film school, and a lot of equipment. So we had brilliant lighting setups. We had loads and loads and loads of gear being brought in that nearly took up an entire room. Like it was so much stuff. So I'd say the second we started to arrive and bringing all the like props and people, I think there was 20 people on set at all times. There was like a lot of gear that he just like, and people kind of traipsing in. We did have booties, but that, yeah, I'd say regretted it almost immediately. So I think if we'll have to pick a different location if we're going to film a feature.
So is there plan now for a feature based off of these characters?
There was always a plan. Although this is such an like I don't want to like spoil anything in case anyone wants to watch it. This is sort of an upbeat film in a way,
Mhm.
like it's not that dark. The feature version would be considerably darker.
Oh,
In
okay.
these premises, they move into a haunted house. They have nowhere else to go. They're kind of a young couple. They're struggling to communicate, and in the end, the only way through is to figure out a way to work together because they're very different people. Um, the feature would be much darker. The
Mhm.
feature would probably tonally be a bit darker, but funny again. And for something that has that level of intrigue and conflict, would be about them living together but being broken up and having to stay
Mhm.
living together, which again is another reality that is very, very common for people. Especially in the midst of a housing crisis. We have one particularly bad one in Dublin at the moment.
Mhm.
It's like it's nationwide here, but it's particularly bad. So like that in terms of two people splitting up and finding accommodation separately, it's almost impossible. So that would be what the premise of the feature is around. But I'll wait when I get money. That's it.
The housing crisis obviously plays a huge role, and like you said, it's such a problem in Dublin. It's such a problem with big cities in the United States too, and all around the world. Do you feel like using a ghost and using horror kind of let you look at the housing crisis through a new light and in more of an impactful way than like a straightforward drama, would you say?
Yeah, I think comedy is such an important way to process things and genre, it's more about the catharsis of the haunting, of the scare. Is this problem being externalized? It might be psychological, something inside you. It might be like an existential threat. It might be something true. It might be a metaphor.
Mhm.
Whatever horror does, and when it does it really well, it's like the threat becomes externalized and very tangible. Um, I think that's what horror does. I particularly generally, I think I have one thing I've ever written that wasn't a comedy. I do tend to write things that are comedy, and even if it's particularly dark, the subject matter might be particularly dark. It might be like it might deal with abuse or issues in terms of gender, or yeah, I have like a kind of very dark play about historical sexual assault allegation that wasn't believed, and I was like, but it's a comedy. And I do think both with horror separately and humor you can address subjects in this very bleak, very cathartic way. I do think Irish people, because it's part of our like language and the way that we process things, I think due to intergenerational trauma being such a prevalent part of how we communicate, that humor is there because maybe historically we weren't really able to say what we wanted to say directly, and as a result had to come up with ways to like have a conflict that isn't immediate. So like that, I think you'd find like countries that have maybe been colonized or like that had a lot of issues in the past, like peoples that have a lot of issues in the past, they might be a bit more sarcastic
Mhm.
culturally. And I do think that plays into it. I think again, humor plays such a toll because you can tackle things that are much, much darker, and it kind of tricks you because it's more entertaining.
Mhm.
And you're laughing, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh God, that was really challenging. But I'm at the other end of it and I don't feel that level of drained that if it's like an egregious like series of horrible things happening, you kind of after watching it, you're like, oh, that was a brilliant film. It was so well done. But I will never watch that again because that was very intense.
Yeah, definitely. You are a working critic also, which I found interesting. And there used to be a time when a lot of filmmakers were also working critics, and I feel like that is not so common anymore. So, can you talk a little bit about how these two kind of interact with each other and how one has prepared you for the other and kind of how they coexist?
Well, just watching a lot of films is very handy if you try to make films. I think I was a filmmaker before I was a critic. And I think that was very important that I would have been, well, a writer and with who has made films. I think this was really my first film that I got to direct properly, that had
Mm,
funding, that was more of a sustained narrative. Like really, I directed two things in the past, but they were sort of decent sketches. Like they placed in festivals and stuff, but they didn't really have a sustained narrative.
mm,
I think the thing is the role of the critic is sort of harder in that there was a real true way into journalism and then arts journalism in the past. And, old school print media really was a career. And I do think the models are shifting so intensely. Like I would have worked for a radio station before, and you can see it's gone from being about the work to like also being about sales. Like if you don't
mm,
bring in advertising, an advertising revenue, you might you might not get to present a show. Like, there's that it's all about sales. It's all about like, and I know that probably was always about readership, but I do think because that model is still finding some kind of stability,
mhm.
I would say it's changing very quickly. Like I would look at the likes of people creating very interesting videos and talking to people and online content, and TikTok probably is as much of the future going forward. And what's really interesting is as like traditional media, it's very hard to get the rights to do video essays.
Mm,
So actually, if you're approaching it as a journalist, and it's to secure the rights to be able to kind of like put things up and monetize it, it's really hard. So I don't know how those two things meet, but I do think they should. And I also think Gen Z have a new way of consuming media. What they're like, they'll find things that are niche and very interesting, and be really passionate about them, that in a way, like I just think there's something very interesting happening, and I'm kind of very much sitting back about it. I'm not paying my mortgage with film reviews.
mhm.
I do get paid to do them, but it's like the same with writing and filmmaking. It's definitely not the thing that is putting food on my table either.
Yeah. Going to the film that you've directed, and it's very interesting that you say it's your first time because it feels like first time being fully in control because it feels like a horror with all of the pre-production to like create the actual haunting feels like a lot of things to take on. So can you talk a little bit about the logistics of creating a haunt?
Oh, it's so exciting. And it's so exciting to like, okay, so as a writer, it's really exciting. It's really
Mhm,
exciting to imagine something in your mind and then further down the line have actors and people read it out. It's just there's nothing like it. But then to get to be on set and make all the decisions. Now there was logistical things that you're like, oh my God, I haven't done anything like this before. How are we going to fi figure it out? But I was in a really, really privileged position to work with people that were just really talented to give us loads of time. So I could go in as someone who was quite new to the field of directing, go, this is what I want. And then there are people that are really like professionally brilliant helping me figure it out. So Maeve McGrath, she's the
mhm.
producer. She also plays our witch Marion, our kind of our white witch Marion, our charlatan. So she's fabulous. She was an actor in Fair City. She programs like one of the major film festivals here. She's so experienced in all facets of production. She was in Bad Sisters, like
Yeah.
as an actor. Like she's an actor herself as her role. She's fabulous. So she just brings like this air of professionalism. She minds everyone on set. She's so thoughtful. She works like it's her company, Dromglen Productions. So it was herself and Keith. They were producers on it. So, like, first of all, getting to get the application in with them was brilliant. Getting the
Mhm.
funding across the line. We were supported by IADT and First Frames, and IADT were brilliant in that they provided us with a script editor because it was sort of like it's funny. I wouldn't be new to writing, but you always miss things, and there's always ways to make things better in terms of when you're writing the script. And the level of notes that we got from like completely professional script editor who works for like it's our national film school was invaluable. Like you'd pay a fortune for that here. So we're really lucky. I think at every single stage of the way, just to be supported by people that were brilliant. So it is like a first time film, but like I'm the newest person on that set. Everybody else had accomplished so much. Like our DOP, Yara Waldeck, she had two features under her belt while doing this short when like brilliant features that premiered at the same festival we premiered. I don't know how she has the time, but we like if you see the strength of the visuals, how
Mhm.
she found all those lovely narrative shots, like even getting things and finding them and lighting them in terms of like those night scenes, like to get
Mhm.
that depth of field, to find how things look well visually when it's all in one space, like that. She just did an amazing job. And it was really exciting to get to work with her because I've known her for so long as a friend. To see her in action was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, and the I feel like Irish films right now are kind of exploding across the world. Like it just feels like with Kneecap and with The Quiet Girl, it just feels like it's more and more and more. So how does it feel to be a part of this new wave of Irish filmmaking?
Irish filmmaking and Irish horror. So
Mhm.
we have John Farley has his feature going on release today or like this weekend in Ireland. The weekend just gone in Ireland. Kate Dolan is doing amazing
Mhm.
thing. Um, Damien McCarthy, Lee Cronin, like um, there's one now I'm actually kicking myself in my head because he's just the best. Like I watched his films and I laughed. There was like I know him, which makes this so much worse. He's so nice. Let the wrong one in. Oh my God, my brain just
Yeah.
has totally shut down because I'm speaking to you. But he's just incredible and so funny and so witty. I think there is a really strong like cohort of voices
Mhm.
going up at the moment that are really making waves. And like even things like there's a Bloomhouse horror shooting in Ireland at the moment. Like
Oh,
there's a
cool.
lot of things. Um, there's actually two. I think there's one that's just finished and then that's being released now. And then there's something that's shooting here as well, like another big horror.
Wow.
There does seem to be something in the air. I think we've a lot of scary history and maybe that just makes for like good films.
Yeah. My last question for you,
Conor
it's
McMahon. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot that. He's brilliant. Yeah.
yeah. My last question for you is two-parter, just a little fun one to end it on. Do you believe in ghosts? And what's the worst habit a roommate can have?
Um, So my logical thing is I don't believe in ghosts. I never
Oh,
have believed in ghosts. And then, but you ask me that at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm sitting alone in my front room and I hear a noise, then I do immediately. So it's so funny. The rational part of my brain does not believe it at all, but that lizard part that kicks into gear does get terrified by things in a way that is really uncomfortable. Or you're listening to like spooky podcasts or anything like that, and you're like, oh my God, I am terrified.
yeah.
So yeah, so both no and yes. Like, um, and then what was the
Worst
second?
habit a roommate can have, because you got a bad one in your short film.
Yeah, he's sort of like an exaggeration of one that was really true.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think boundaries, like that constant breaking of boundaries, so that especially if you don't have a lock on a door, if you like have your stuff there and everyone's touching them, if people are kind of like encroaching on your physical space, I think that can be a lot for
Yeah.
people, like I think during lockdown, things were incredibly difficult for people because it's fine if you have loads of space and you've kind
Mhm.
of built up your world being home alone. But like, there's something really like now that people work from home as well more, like you really are trapped with people that you don't know. And it's sort of like like people are capable of some pretty strange things.
Yes. Yeah. I had a roommate whose boyfriend essentially moved in, and my least favorite thing about him was he would always make banana and mayonnaise sandwiches. Um, and that was the worst. It was awful.
It's the weirdest red flag I have ever heard. Like, I actually, no, yuck. That's like a sensory sense of torture.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gemma. This was really lovely, and congratulations on it, and congratulations on all the festivals that I'm sure are coming down the line.
Fingers crossed, and thank you so much for having us. It's lovely. It's lovely to chat horror and films.
I love it. Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.